Bulavanaka, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Notion. Today I speak to a young man who goes by the name Broderick Mervyn. He has made some remarkable achievements in his life and significant ones as well that have earned him high honors. And I would like to introduce you to that young man who's sitting beside me today. Bulavanaka, Broderick. I'm so excited to sit here and talk to you because I feel like we're going to be hearing a little bit more than anybody else. Welcome to The Notion, Broderick.
Thank you so much for having me.
A pleasure indeed. Now, let me start off by asking you, who is Broderick Mervyn?
Broderick Mervyn, an innovative, bold, and someone to look out for in the not too distant future.
Stand by. I'm glad, Broderick, that you've mentioned that, because you've mentioned that along the lines of your many achievements, some of which we're going to be hearing on The Notion today. But taking a step back, tell me a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood, your family, mom and dad, and the whole nuclear family.
Was born in the Western Division of Fiji. I have a younger brother, mom and dad, and been very closely knitted with our Rotuman community here. Both of them, of course, are Rotuman, and spent the better part of my life in terms of academic education, primary, secondary here in the Western Division, and moved on to Suva for tertiary education and further opportunities, and things just continued to take off from there. So I think that's just how it all started, basically.
Tell me a little bit, Broderick, about your upbringing and, of course, the Rotuman culture, how its culture and tradition has paved the way for you and sort of shaped you as a young man, or the young man that you are today.
I think one of the greatest blessings that I've had in my lifetime, Mavis, was my late grandparents from my mother's side, who I owe them quite a huge amount of gratitude and honor for their contributions in terms of the cultural faith upbringing. My grandmother and grandfather, mind you, were very adamant in, when I was born, both my brother and I, when we were born, we had to learn the language. You had to get engaged in the cultural activities. That would include the dances, as well as attending the Rotuman functions. So it really played a huge part in my life, because, you know, a lot of times when it comes to our culture with this current generation, not many of them are very articulate in their mother tongue. But even more so, I credit them, as I mentioned, about the faith. My grandmother, my grandfather drilled it in us at a very young age, as well as to my parents, that, you know, the prayers and the faith are equally important, not only for now, but they were looking at it from a long term. And basically, we're just reaping the fruits of their labor in terms of the prayers. But again, you know, they're gone. It's also our part as well to up our game in terms of where our faith is, but most importantly, we'll continue the legacy that they've left behind.
Now that came from, of course, you know, your grandparents and your parents having that. At the time, did you see reason to it? And now that, you know, you've blossomed and bloomed and, you know, come to a stage where you're able to make your decisions, do you now see how that played a big role?
You know, it has played a big role, I would say, in the sense that, you know, with the day-to-day challenges of life, you know, you have to be really stern on your faith, but most important of all, you know, you have to make those decisions whereby, you know, it's not for you, it's more so for the future. If there's anything that my family has sort of instilled in both my brother and I, is that, you know, people will have their opinions, but when you know what your, first and foremost, your identity, 2, the goals that you want to pursue, and 3, knowing that, you know, if you know your faith, where it's at, believe me, things will be more accomplished than you could possibly imagine. I say that because often at times, you know, a lot of the people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis, when you tell them, okay, do you know what your purpose in life is? Do you know what the goals are? What are the goals for the next 5 years, the next 10 years? So I think from a very young age, my grandparents, let alone my parents, they really drummed it in both my brother and I to know, like, this is, if you know what you have to do, then you'll have to do what it takes to achieve it. They'll provide the love and the support, but they also, what I'm privileged in terms of the family that I have, is that my parents didn't force us into the careers that we're pursuing. This was our choice. All they told us was, if you want to pursue it, go for it. You have our blessing. But you know, make sure you achieve it to the very end.
Awesome. Well, now, Broderick, you have a younger brother.
Right.
And of course, what are some of the things that you tell him? Some of the things that you've learned in your young life. You haven't actually reached half yet, but some of the things that you feel like you've learned along the way that you've been able to pass very early on to your younger brother.
I think with both my younger brother and I, one thing that has been made clear, because you know, in the storms of life, we've learned that our faith plays an important role, and we both have that mutual respect and understanding of the goals that we want to pursue on a professional and on a personal level. The common thing that you'll see is that though we may not be seen like, you know, they're supposed to be together, but we come at a united front when we know what we're trying to drive at. I support him in his endeavors, he supports mine, but at the end of the day, we respect that fact that, you know, we have goals to achieve. You know, we are grateful to have a strong support system, our parents, even our friends, our mentors. But again, it's just having that clear understanding that, you know, we were set up for bigger things in life.
When we return after the short break, more about the life of Broderick Mervyn.